Rob, we have fast food news here today to talk about because, nothing else much has been going on. And I've been eating, to be honest, I've been eating a lot of junk food over the last week as I sit at my desk working on all the stuff we were doing at Mac Stories. But you sent me a picture of some jalapeno chicken nuggets, and I was a little, gotta admit, I was a little disgusted. Did you buy these?
I did buy these, yeah.
How are they?
They were fine.
Okay.
They smelled horrible. I was cooking them, and I was like, I didn't even want to eat them because I took them out of the oven when they were done, and they've just got this horrible, like, manufactured factory smell to them.
Oh, no.
Like, these aren't like sort of jalapeno poppers with like cream cheese and stuff or anything like that, and they're not even like a mozzarella stick or anything where it's a lot of cheese. It's like a chicken nugget, and then there's like a bit of cheese inside the breadcrumby coating, I guess, or the batter or whatever they've got. And then I guess a little bit of jalapeno, although I couldn't taste it. And they're kind of grim, but, I'll finish them anyway. I've paid for them. They were fine, I guess. But they were not as nice as they looked on the picture.
All right. Well, speaking of smells, I've got one for you. Jennifer came home with one of these kind of prepackaged foods. It had the air of healthiness to it. They were little small potatoes, and they were in a package that, really all you had to do was microwave it for a while to cook the potatoes. And then it had this little packet of dry seasoning that you would sprinkle over it, stir it up a bit. And it was supposed to be like, I'm not sure why this is like a prepackaged food, because it's really not that hard to cook your own potatoes and put your own seasoning on them. But it was, so we had it, so I made it. And the seasoning, which was a combination of garlic and Parmesan cheese and some other things, when they were done, they smelled like dirty sweat socks. It was really bad. And I made the mistake of saving a little bit of leftovers and putting them in the fridge, and waking up the next morning and opening the refrigerator to get breakfast. I nearly passed out. It was so bad. I think I finally got the stink out, but it was pretty bad. Pretty bad. So that's my stinky potato story. I should mention too that I had these things called, oh my gosh, I got to look what they're even called, Rob. What were these things called? They're called Puffcorn. They're Chester's Puffcorn. And Chester is the mascot of Cheetos. And Cheetos is a big Frito-Lay brand snack that I think is pretty universal. I would say Cheetos is probably something you can get in a lot of places in the world. But these...
Yeah, we know what Cheetos are. There's a few that I can get over. I can't get the crunchy ones, which is really annoying, because I really like those. But...
Well, these are Puffcorn, and it's this puffed up, a little bit like popcorn, I guess. It's baked, so presumably it's maybe not as unhealthy. But it's just this kind of tasteless, puffy snack that has taste only because it's got Cheetos cheese all over it. So they're surprisingly good.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to improve anything. But this definitely seems to be a trend at the moment. I've noticed in the shops there's a lot of like popcorn or popcorn adjacent products. Right. Like we tried, because they were on special offer, they sort of look like Doritos, so they're like these sort of triangle chips.
I think I've seen these. And they're all puffed up, right?
They were like... Right, but they're puffed up, and it was like popcorn, but in these little triangles.
Yeah.
And I think we had some like sweet ones, and I think they had some other flavors like sweet chili and stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's a whole bunch of these weird popcorn. I think it's a popcorn renaissance.
I think so. I'm not sure if they're more like popcorn or more like the packing peanuts, the styrofoam that you put around packaging, because there's a certain element of that to it. Like if these didn't have the cheese on the outside, you could probably pack these, use these and send a package to, by FedEx or something. It's that sort of texture almost.
Yeah, these triangles, like, just to be clear, that wasn't an endorsement. These were not very good.
All right. Well, these cheese puffs are pretty good. These whatever they're called, Puffcorn. I don't know why they call them Puffcorn, but they're pretty good if you see them. I don't know. They seem to be pretty new around here. I have a teenage son, and he's very good at finding, rooting out these novel snacks and finding drugstores and other places around town where they're sold. So I think He's the one who came home with these initially. Just $2 a bag, it says. It's because it's mostly they're selling you air. They're selling you a little bit of cheese flavoring and air, basically.
Right, I mean, $2 though for that bag that you sent me. That seems great.
So they're good. They're good for watching a movie or something, sitting on the couch. You need to have one of those, just like any Cheetos. You need to have a good napkin there. You're going to end up with orange all over your fingers. But
amateur hour, you got to eat it with a spoon.
Oh, a spoon.
That's
all right.
That's the pro move.
That is a pro move. I'll have to remember that. It's almost perfect for these size little puffs too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, I mean, speaking of snacks, you know, Graze, the little snack company that sends you snacks in the post.
I think so. Yeah,
I don't know if
I've heard of it.
I'm not sure if they're in the US or not. But they did these little Marmite ones that I found in the shop. And it's just like, you know, peanuts and little bits of things. I don't really know. It's just like a big bag of, like, I guess it's like trail mix, I guess. But they're like Marmite flavored, and I ended up eating that with a spoon because otherwise I was getting all the Marmite stuff on my fingers. And but I have to limit myself, otherwise I end up eating the whole bag at once.
I bet. Wow. Well, I heard a rumor that you're back on RSS, and I'd like to think that Club Mac Stories is to blame.
Oh, it's 100% to blame. I feel like the great thing about the good and the bad thing about the Discord is like, we can get answers to like every question because there's enough people in there that any random question you ask, loads of people have got opinions.
It's true.
And like, you know, I asked about text editors the other day, like it was 2010. I was like, what about iOS text editors? Is that still a thing people do? Because that, I mean, it's discussed anyway, but that is a very weird market right now because everyone's on Obsidian and
right, it is
Rome and building all sorts of different stuff. But yeah, somebody mentioned RSS, I think, and I thought, yeah, I am kind of missing out on stories, or I'm not seeing them because I'm, you know, just scrolling through Twitter. So yeah, I went with what did you suggest? NetNewsWire.
Yeah, that's a good choice.
I mean, it uses iCloud, so great. There's no other third-party service, and it's free. I mean,
right.
It's kind of hard to beat those two things.
It really is, and it's, you know, they've done a really good job with that app and making it super native on all the platforms that it's on. I mean, because it's on iOS, but it's also on the Mac. And I think a lot of people don't realize still that RSS is available through iCloud, that's something that is actually doable now. It wasn't really doable for a long time, but you can set up that as your sync service now for a whole bunch of different RSS clients. Reader works that way too. They have that as an option. I think the only real reason to have a service anymore is if you want to use multiple apps, or if there's some feature of the service on top of normal RSS that you want. Because like InnoReader, which is something that I use, has, you know, rules and filters and all kinds of other different features on top of regular RSS that are handy if you use a lot of RSS feeds, which I do for Mac Stories. But yeah, it's you know, using it just through iCloud is really good and really fast too. And I know NetNewsWire does a real nice job with theirs.
Yeah, I mean, I was really impressed. I mean, like you say, it is a bare bones app. It's like,
right. It's not a lot of fancy.
Like if you were to describe the bare minimum features of an RSS app to somebody, like this is what you would end up with. And from my point of view, that's great. You know, because it's all the native UI elements and all that kind of stuff. When iOS updates, you pretty much know it's just going to work.
Yeah, it's really solid, and it's not buggy at all. I mean, what's nice about RSS right now on iOS is that there's so many options that you can get everything from something really rock solid and simple like NetNewsWire on all the way up to something really complicated and experimental like, you know, maybe Lear or Fiery Feeds, which does a lot of fancy stuff, but at times those apps have been a little buggy around the edges.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, subscribe to maybe like, you know, 10 or so, maybe 15 sites. You know, and 2 of those are like Mac Stories and then the Club RSS feeds as well. I think actually that was what triggered me, because you were all talking about the custom feeds that you can do, which is very fancy. You know, but I wanted like, no, give me it all. Just mainline it all straight into my phone. Like I want everything. and I think, yeah, like you say, for 10, 15, probably 20 feeds, it's fine. I don't really need any filtering or anything like that, because I'm not really getting a lot of duplication, because it's all the sites you'd imagine.
Sure.
It's Mac Stories, it's Daring Fireball, 512 Pixels, those kind of sites. So I'm not really getting a lot of crossover in terms of the same stories. Although, I think years ago when I used to use RSS and I'd subscribe to like The Verge, 9 to 5 Mac, and like 10 other tech sites, where it's like, well, yeah, I'm obviously going to see the same thing over and over again.
Right, and you're going to see a lot of it because a lot of those sites are very high volume. Even the ones that are good, there's just a lot there, and a lot of stuff you probably don't care about too as a result. Yeah, that was kind of a neat thing. I mean, that's kind of my favorite feature. What we did with the club was we have a system where you can turn any aspect of any of our newsletters into a private RSS feed, and it's like individualized to the person, but it's not private in the sense that it needs like its own special login. Once you're a member of Club Mac Stories, you just get these feeds that are unique to you, and you set up yourself with any of your favorite sections. And that's something that we've always wanted to do, just because we know that, you have to be realistic when you write on the web. It's like not everybody wants to read everything that we do, and that's totally okay. And, if somebody is there only for one particular thing, they should be able to get just one particular thing. And so we're trying to give that to them. And I think people have been really happy with it. It's interesting to see people's reactions to how our filtering system works, because some people, I think, want it to be way more complex than it is, or are overthinking how it works and are coming up with these really convoluted, complex things that they want to be able to do, which is a little bit, from a UI standpoint, it's probably never going to work for us, but I think you can kind of manufacture some of it on your own by putting together multiple feeds and then combining them, instead of having one super complex, if this, then that, but not this, but only in the case of this type, those kind of Boolean type of operators that I think some people were hoping that they would be able to do. But you can get pretty creative with it, I think. So I don't know. I like it. It seems like it's been a hit with people who have joined so far.
Yeah, it kind of reminded me, like a few years ago, I would, instead of subscribing to like a particular site, especially like you say the high volume sites, I would subscribe to like the authors' feeds for the people I particularly liked.
Right.
But if you look around sites right now, like nobody does that anymore.
No,
like
it's
nobody has feeds just for authors.
No, you want to know why they don't?
Sorry, go on.
No, I was going to tell you. You want to know why big sites don't do that anymore? It's because of things like Substack, because they don't want, a lot of media companies don't want their writers to have a really high profile, and they don't want to help them have their own profile like that, because then it gives them leverage to leave and set up their own shop and abandon the company, or they have to pay them more. So, maybe that's a little bit cynical view of it, but I think that is going on. It's like, I know that there's a lot of pressure with a lot of writers at big companies like the New York Times and other places over tweeting, hosting, whether it's Clubhouse or the, Spaces on Twitter or whatever it happens to be. There's a lot of pressure on some writers not to do that stuff, because they don't want them to have a presence outside of the media organization, because then all of a sudden they might be able to go out on their own and make their own business out of it, which a lot have done actually nowadays.
Yeah, no, that totally makes sense. And let's not pretend like big companies don't want us to use RSS anyway, because it's like, well, I can't show you all the ads.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Yeah.
It's very hard to track you in an RSS feed.
It's very true.
Obviously they can do it with images and tracking GIFs and stuff, which I'm sure they do. But yeah, no, it's been good. It's been nicer to sort of have those stories in an RSS feed, in an RSS reader, rather than following random accounts on Twitter, where I might or might not click the link and then I completely miss a story.
Yeah, I like the option of having RSS feeds, because I do that actually, even though I like getting email newsletters, but not in my email. So a lot of them I subscribe to through a service like InnoReader has the ability to do this, where your email newsletters just go straight into their service and then they show up in RSS. With what we devised for Mac Stories, you don't need to do that anymore, because you can just create your own feed. But but it's kind of nice. I've never really liked the idea of getting a lot of content in my email because I get enough email as it is, and I don't really want to be sitting in my inbox reading somebody's newsletter and see all the email that I have to deal with for work popping up as I'm reading it. So I like keeping those things separate if I can.
Yeah, and this is something I keep thinking about because I see threads on Twitter. I see people posting, big quote-unquote articles on like a Reddit post and stuff. And the same with email newsletters. It's like that content feels like it's lost.
Yeah, it's
once
locked
that's
away.
Been sent out.
Yeah, it's locked away. That was...
Right, it's not really searchable, and you can't... Well, this is one of the big things being talked about in your Discord is like, oh, we can actually link to this story now.
Right.
Like, that's really good because you have a direct way of going, yeah, go see this thing. But, like, there's just so many, like, lost ideas, lost content that's just going into Twitter threads and stuff, which are impossible to find after 2 weeks.
Right.
It's so difficult to find this stuff. If you see a good thread about it, people tend to do explainers, don't they, about...
Sure.
I don't know, this concept or this political thing that's happening. And I'm like, well, sometimes I think, oh, I want that thread. But of course I can't find it because there's just no way to look for this stuff.
Right. And that's where we kind of were coming from in the sense that, we had 6 years of content that were locked in people's inboxes that weren't really searchable by them or by us. I mean, Federico and I, what we used to do is we used to create PDF versions of all the newsletters with shortcuts, keep them in an app called Keep It. And then we could, which OCR'd them, and then we could search for them. And so we had our own search system so we could find back issues because we would want to link to them, but we never had a link to anything other than the full newsletter. And finding that stuff was hard. People shouldn't have to go to the trouble of creating their own PDF library of back issues because we had like 350 issues. And now it's all searchable. Now, it is still behind a paywall, but I mean, that's like, it's funny because I know a lot of people I've had this conversation with people more than once now where it's like, well, this stuff isn't open web because you guys are behind a paywall. And it's like, well, this technology is our open technologies. The paywall is the business model. And those are two different things. And, using open web technologies allows us to link, allows people to search. But, this stuff is part of a paid subscription. And that's, there's a couple of ways to make money on the internet. You can sell ads and you can sell subscriptions. Those are two of the big ways. We do both. I don't think either one of them is ever going to go away. I don't think. But, that's just how the club works from a business standpoint. It's not really a reflection on the technology itself. So,
yeah, definitely. I totally agree with you. But yeah, so it's been good. It's been fun being back on RSS. Have you got anything else? I can't think anything else has happened for me.
Not a lot, although I must say that I am very pleased with Discord. I like that we built a Discord after talking about building a Mac Stories community for forever. I mean, it's been on our plate, on our minds for years now, and we waited until we could like tie it together with other things we do in a way that would be more meaningful. And it's just been really nice because I feel like in the last week I've gotten more feedback on what we do than I've gotten in the last 5 years. And that's really good. It's really valuable, both positive and negative. And it's overwhelmingly positive, which is nice. But yeah, it's nice to be able to actually get to know people a little more, especially when, we used to be able to do that at WWC, for instance. We'd actually get to meet a fair number of readers. I mean, obviously not everybody goes to that conference, but it was an opportunity where we did get to meet people, and we haven't had that for 2 years, which is really hard. And people do write us emails and things like that once in a while, but that's like such an effort that a very small fraction of people do it. But with the Discord, it's easy just to kind of get in there and chat and say hello, which has been a nice thing.
Yeah, it's been. I mean, I've been having a lot of fun in that.
Yeah, I'm glad you have.
I didn't. I was sort of It's been a little bit distracting, if anything.
I know. Well, and that's my balancing act. It's like we view it as a very important part of our job to be involved in there, but at the same time, I have just as much or more to do than I ever have had. So I do take long breaks to get my writing done and things like that. But it's actually a really nice break to kind of stop for a little while and take 15 minutes and see what's going on in the Discord and answer a few questions and hang out with people. So that's cool.
Yeah, definitely. Cool. All right, I think, like I said, I don't think I have anything else. It's been, you've had a really busy week, or a busy couple of weeks, but I haven't had a lot going on except my chicken nuggets.
It has calmed down now, thank goodness, just in time to get ready for the fall Apple season of releases of iPhones and stuff. So I'm sure we'll have plenty more to talk about. I did get to finally play my PS5. It did sit for more than a week without me touching it. But I did play a little Miles Morales and Astro's Playroom. And, I'm loving that, but I've got a long way to go before I really feel like I've fully explored it. So maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more next time.
Yeah, no, that sounds good.
All right. I will talk to you in a couple of weeks then.
All right. Speak to you later.